Welcome to Legally Speaking. The California legislature passes and creates or changes a law. How the law gets enforced, however, is what actually makes the law. There's a huge difference between legislation and enforcement. One example is Senate Bill 357, which was passed as Safer Streets for All Act. It was intended to stop the harassment and overcriminalization of Black and trans people by police in the human trafficking field. It was feared that the enforcement of the law was targeting Black and trans people. SB 357 took effect on January 1st, 2023, amid great concerns by anti-human trafficking advocates. There was a huge debate on the pros and cons of SB 357 before and after it passed. Opponents feared that pimps and traffickers would be able to escape police scrutiny of their activities. SB 357 also took police off their game. The Peace Officers Research Association of California, known as PORAC, heavily criticized the bill and fought against it. Most police departments simply did not know how to operate in the changed environment where they could not just harass and arrest anyone they suspected of trafficking. Law enforcement activists immediately began attacking the law instead of developing new tactics to address the traffickers whom they claim were emboldened by the law. The Oakland Police Department in particular also completely failed to focus on the increasing gun violence associated with human trafficking in our city. On July 19, 2023, Nicole Marci, a beautiful 26-year-old mother of two, was chased down on East 14th Street, known as the Blade, onto 18th Avenue by a masked man in the early morning hours. Witnesses reported that when Nicole tripped and fell, the man stood over her and shot her multiple times. Victor Sledge was arrested and accused of shooting Nicole and another man, allegedly because Nicole refused to allow Mr. Sledge to continue trafficking her. There were 4 homicides that day in Oakland, and Nicole Marci's death seemed to be just another homicide in Oakland. However, my team and I refused to let Nicole's murder be just another homicide in Oakland. In January of 2024, we organized a rally and march to raise awareness about human trafficking in the San Antonio neighborhood, and we walked in honor of her memory. Nicole's family attended the rally, and we were able to comfort them. They got to meet the amazing members of the DA's Human Exploitation Assistance and Response Team, known as the HEART Team. This was the HEART Team which we formed in the wake of Nicole's murder. The challenge in every community is who is best suited to address sex trafficking and what actually works. Locally, the battle is led by the FBI, which sponsors rescue raids and sting operations in collaboration with local law enforcement agencies, including local police and the sheriff's office. Federal penalties for sex trafficking are much harsher than state laws and are extremely serious when they involve minors or they're coupled with weapons possession charges. These operations are usually targeted towards street-level trafficking. The city of Oakland's response to SB 357 was to add more cameras in particular neighborhoods and enhance OPD patrols. Due to staffing issues inside OPD, however, these enhanced patrols did not have a meaningful effect on human trafficking in our city. In fact, the activity caught by the cameras intensified, and the street interactions around sex trafficking became even more violent in 2023. Many sex brothels operate openly in Alameda County, almost without any type of law enforcement apprehension. The investigation and prosecution of brothels is rare because of the time-intensive nature of the investigation. In California, victims are trafficked up and down the I-5 corridor, which includes Redding, Sacramento, Fresno, Bakersfield, Los Angeles, and San Diego. There is a larger national circuit that includes Las Vegas, Dallas, New Orleans, St. Louis, Miami, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, Boston, Phoenix, Detroit, Chicago, Seattle, and Portland. Alameda County sits right in the middle of the Bay Area and statewide tract. According to a 2013 Department of Justice study nationally, 40% of sex trafficking victims were Black, 23.9% were Hispanic, and 4.3% were Asian. The primary victims of sex trafficking in Alameda County are Black and brown girls, 76%, of which 61% are African American and 15% are Latina. More than 55% of the trafficking victims in Alameda County were foster youth at one point in their lifetime. Culturally competent providers are key to reaching out to victims and serving their needs. Human trafficking victims often do not trust the police or the prosecutors. One of the initiatives I championed as Alameda County District Attorney was to hire a more diverse cohort of victim advocates to serve our victims of sex trafficking. We also started training prosecutors how to engage victims without demeaning them. It is rare to see a response from law enforcement that has a positive and effective impact on the whole community or solves the problem of human trafficking. SB 14 was passed in 2024, which makes human trafficking of a minor a serious felony, including for purposes of the three strikes law. It restricts the prosecutor's ability to engage in plea bargaining of these charges. In January of 2026 is when it will take effect. Also passed in 2024 and signed by the governor are four other bills. Senate Bill 963, which requires emergency room at hospitals to adopt and implement policies that allow emergency room patients to confidentially self-identify themselves to hospital personnel as a victim of sex trafficking or domestic violence. Shout out to Highland Hospital in Oakland, which is leading the way and is already focused on the need to identify victims and support victims of human trafficking seeking medical care. SB 1414 increases penalties for the crime of solicitation of a minor who is being trafficked and increases the number of people convicted of this crime who must register as sex offenders. Assembly Bill 2020 requires law enforcement agencies and the Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Training, POST, to create minimum guidelines for law enforcement personnel when interacting with survivors of human trafficking. AB 1888 establishes a new labor trafficking unit within the California Department of Justice and requires coordination with various state departments and law enforcement agencies to refer complaints or reports of labor trafficking for investigation, prosecution, and a tracking system to collect labor trafficking reports and complaints. Assembly Bill 379 has passed, and it is intended and effective to overturn SB 357. It's an effort to turn the clock back to give police more predatory tools and encourage them to be more aggressive in combating street-level prostitution. AB 379 will also punish buyers purchasing commercial sex, making it a misdemeanor with a $1,000 fine. The money from these fines is supposed to go to community-based organizations to provide direct services and outreach to sex trafficking victims. Passing the legislation is one thing. How it gets enforced is what challenges every community. Getting the money from the court to a community-based organization will be one of the biggest challenges. In fact, the Mercury News reported last week that Judge Thomas Rearton released a man the same day he was charged with 5 felonies for sexual abuse of a 14-year-old girl. The young girl met him on Perp, a social media app geared toward teens, and he allegedly lured her to Oakland. The crime apparently was not considered serious enough for the court to hold him in the Santa Rita County Jail. So you see, we have a long way to go in fighting human trafficking, which is nothing more than modern-day slavery. But we must continue to strive to combat it and to end it. Thanks for tuning in to Pamela Price Unfiltered. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please sign up this month as a founding member or a paid subscriber to my Substack newsletter to get the weekly word from Pamela Price Unfiltered. Your support keeps the conversation raw and unfiltered. And you can also listen to Pamela Price Unfiltered wherever you get your podcasts.